unique challenges and opportunities in creating a food system that is not only efficient but also environmentally friendly. Our guest today is our friend Jeff Adebowale, a renowned policy development strategist with extensive experience in sustainable practices. Together, we'll be looking at how Lagos has been sustainable, the food business, for a while. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning once again, and good morning, Lagos.
You're welcome. When you hear the word sustainable, it gives you that sense of, okay, relief, peace, ease. But for those who do not understand, the word sustainable in the food system, I'd like you to explain what sustainable food business means in the context of Lagos.
Okay, thank you very much. Just by trying to just define the word in itself just means, in another word, if you say you want to sustain something, you want to have consistency of that particular thing. And of course, then when we then talk about food sustainability in Lagos, you need to look at some sort of statistics that will help you to understand even where we are and where we're likely to get to. So, for example, if you talk about rate of consumption in Lagos, for example, and of course, vis-a-vis supply, you will see that Lagos residents consume about 4.5 billion naira worth of food daily. 4.5 billion naira worth of food daily, which translates to about 5 trillion annually. The question then is, how much of that do we produce in Lagos? So you see the dependency of Lagos with the fact that we are heavily importing food, whether locally or internationally. When I mean importing food locally, you can imagine the amount of food that comes from the north, to us in Lagos on a day-to-day basis. We are hardly producing anything in Lagos. In fact, like I always say on this platform, I'm from Lagos State, I'm from Imota, and I've always known, our farmland to be producing. But right now, a lot of it has been sold off for real estate and, all those funny things. But then, of course, they talk about sustainability and you look at the future. Arguably in about another few years, maybe 5 years, Lagos will be doing an annual of over 6 trillion naira in food consumption. And so if you just even look at these statistics alone, you will see that for us to be able to sustain feeding Lagos with the understanding of growth and all of that, there's a need to strategically engage, food production as much as we look at the use of land, and we bring in other technologies that can allow us produce. Ekpe used to be a hub for seafoods. But what's going on there right now? Whether you like it or not, Ibejileki has happened and is happening, and industries are coming up, and they're going to be polluting the air, whether you like it or not. They're going to pollute in the waters, whether you like it or not. So,
you've talked about the food consumption in Lagos, I think, due to the population, and of course, Lagos being not having enough land. Are those the biggest challenges, or are there more challenges Lagos is facing to sustain the food system?
The two basic things that I see as challenges, one, of course, the use of land, because we can't plant in the air, right? And if you take a drive from Lekki all the way into Ekpe, you will see so many lands that should have been used for agriculture. That is now just
they've even turned them to real estate.
Yes, real estate.
Business is taking over most of the land.
Yeah, so they're taking most of the land for real estate now. Come to Ikorodu, drive down all the way from there into Itoki, into Ekpe. Like I said, I'm from Imota. go and check a lot of our lands there. They're already going for real estate. I mean, there's so many things going. I mean, those guys in the real estate sector are doing land banking and all of that. You know, poverty is not helping. And so instead of people going to farm, you know, they're busy selling off their lands, you know, for estate and whatever it is worth. But I always advocate that Lagos needs to begin to think about a different strategy for use of land. If we must have real estate because we have deficit of that, we should go vertical rather than spreading horizontal so that we can still have farmlands.
Okay.
So that's one, the use of land. Number two, critically, security. Lagos is secure, of course, better than a lot of other states. But there are still some worries around security. And this is what I mean. There are too many so-called Omoniles and Ajagunbales and all of that because a lot of the lands are now going for real estate. So you have people. So when you have somebody in his own farm, it would probably just wait on there. Somebody's attacking him on the farm, you know, with cutlass and all of that because somebody wants to take the land and sell it off as real estate. So we have of insecurity in that regard. So that's another point. Then, of course, pollution. The commissioner for environment is doing a whole lot, you know, to sort of help to, you know, change the narrative in that regard. But Lagos is very much more metropolitan in the setting. But if you then say that, can we bring in new technology farming? You know, like first said, you can have a small farm behind your house. You can have, you know, flower pots, you know, in your backyard that can grow small vegetables. I mean, we can have what you also call hydroponics, tower agriculture, where you can grow little vegetables on a tower and with just a square meter of land, I mean, space within your compound, you can have a tower where you can actually grow small vegetables. But then when you have that technology, you also have to worry about pollution. You have to worry about the population congestion. And so that's another point, you know, for us to look at. If you go, you know, to other places, like I said, where you can still do agriculture, we don't have the right policy system to ensure that the use of land in those places are for agriculture. So, I mean, we're not incentivizing agriculture locally to make it interesting for people to get into.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned policies. So, are there any local policies now that, you know, support or hinder sustainable food initiatives?
I don't think. I mean, I don't know of any policy. Yes, if we call the Commissioner for Agriculture, I'm sure there is something. Yes, I mean, there will be something. But again, it's about the implementation. And if you can't implement a policy, it's as good as it doesn't exist. I don't know of any. Like I said, I do hear from my family at home. I'm very much always at home. You know, Imota is Lagos State. So the distance between the core city and my hometown is just about 2 hours. So I go home very frequently. I know that, I mean, people decide to do whatever they want to do. And it's their land, it's their land. You can't stop them, you know, from selling it off for real estate, you know, when they feel insecure going even to the farmland in the first place. The newer generation are not seeing agriculture as, you know, something that really sort of gives them the right investment. And I must say, those of us in quotes who are into agriculture are not doing it in Lagos State. Many have farmlands, you know, and even some in the north. A lot of people in Lagos have investment up north and in other states for agriculture, rather than in Lagos. But they are in Lagos, but they have those investments. So again, at the end of the day, you go and invest in another state, in another land where, I mean, there is, you know, good land for you to farm, and then you still have to transport it down to Lagos. So a lot of the time, people get to produce and sell it to, you know, whoever is ready to buy it off them without having to worry about bringing it down to Lagos. So again, in sustainability, there are lots to look at, you know, in the entire value chain. You must also look at processing, you must look at sorting, you must look at transportation, storage, and all of that.
Transportation and
storage, and so, I mean, do we have all of that here? I doubt it, because trust me, if you say it is on paper, it is not being implemented. That's the problem.
Okay, oftentimes we've talked about Imota, and we have the rice mill in Imota. Has it contributed in any way in sustaining the food business in Lagos?
It has, but you see, I will give this, it's not a secret, but I will give this thing, about 3 years ago, I was called by the government of Kwara State, not directly, not from the government, but some key stakeholders within the government. And I was advising, on some things,
Okay.
which also included, agriculture, food, security. And there was a conversation from the MD of the holding company. I think that's Harmony Holdings, which is the holding company of the state. And at the time, they had put in place an infrastructure to have a rice mill in the state that was going to be as big as what we had in Lagos. Now, they have paddy in Songa. I mean, they're also close to Niger and all the regions where production of rice paddy, is. But us in Lagos, we have this big, humongous, rice mill, but we don't have the raw material. We have the paddy. So I came back and I went to meet my uncle, who is Kabesi. And I told him, I said, sir, your rice mill here in Imota is not going to work. He said, how do I mean? I said, I'm just coming from Kwara. Kwara is doing a rice mill, and they're going to be off-taking. And in fact, what they've done is even gone beyond off-taking the existing. They're doing back-end integration, which means they are supporting even farmers to produce more so that they can have more rice to mill. But us in Lagos, we are in partnership at the time with Kebbi State. And Kebbi State also aggregate and destone before sending to us. So if the people who produce now off-take their rice and keep it in their states to produce, the rice mill we have in Lagos is not going to be functional. And the question I ask you and I today, if we're going to be factual to ourselves, is that rice mill in Imota fully functional? Is it fully operational? The answer is no. Because we also have not set in motion the infrastructure to feed that mill with the rice paddy that it requires. So, I mean, it has done something. I mean, the rice mill in Imota has done something, but it's not fully operational. And for us to make it fully operational, we need to think the entire whole 9 yards, so that we don't just set up things that, we are left handing cap. Because, I mean, if you don't have what you're going to mill, how are you going to get the production going? I mean, those are the questions we must answer. Yes, we must be strategic in our engagement, but we must think through everything that we're trying to do, for all our investments.
Okay, still talking about food sustainability in Lagos, I want us to look at the markets. Most times, or recently, the Commissioner for the Environment has been in some markets in Lagos, and they had to shut them down because of waste. And of course, what are this waste? This waste are mostly what is being sold in the market, which is majorly food. Okay, so this food waste, how much of it can be recycled into something more into something that can be used, again?
So this conversation is beyond Lagos State, right? Because again, we're not producing a lot. I mean, in Lagos, as to the raw materials, again, fruit, vegetables and all of that at the large quantity. There's a statistics that says that Nigeria loses about 3 trillion naira annually. Loss, not gain.
3 trillion annually.
Trillion annually due to insufficient waste recovery in the food industry. 3 trillion loss. I mean, this food waste can be turned into bioenergy. But we can even reduce the wastages if we have the right infrastructure. Again, storage, sorting, logistics, and all of that. So right now, we're doing close to about 50% of produce going into waste. If you go to Benway, for example, I mean, the humongous amount of fruits that you will find there that are going to waste.
Waste, yeah.
I mean, it's alarming. And of course, I just shared with you this statistic. So if we can do a lot, Okay, let me even share for you. I think I have the data here for Lagos.
Okay.
Lagos produces over 5.46 million tons of waste each year.
Oh.
5.46
0.46
million
million
tons of waste.
tons.
That is, yes, that is why you can see what Olusegun is looking at, you know. And I mean, we can't deny it. And I say it, and I will say it to the commissioner, I will say it to His Excellency. Some years ago, when the government was coming, I mean, I did a lot of updates on the waste management, and I wrote a strategy document.
Okay.
And currently, Loma is doing waste to energy.
Yes.
Right? And this had been the conversation that we needed to have gotten to way before now. And we must educate our citizens, you know, to the point where they do sorting of waste from the home front. And I think we've discussed this on this platform. We must, maybe not this platform, we must educate our people on how to sort of, you know, manage all. So if we turn those waste into fertilizers, for example, I can carry my, you know, food waste at home and put it in a soil and put it in a tower structure in my house to produce basic vegetables. Peppers and tomatoes and all of that, and ugus and water leaf and all those small things that I don't have to go to the market to buy. But we must educate the mind of our people that if you don't manage waste properly, I mean, when we talk about Lagos right now, if you don't manage your waste properly, it will become a problem to the economy, and Lagos State will spend so much money. Let me give you a statistics. At the turn of the first administration of Governor Sanwo-Olu, when he came and we audited, you know, Loma, Lagos was paying over $1 billion in waste collection alone, not management, not any other thing in environment. So imagine that the governor saw that it's okay, we need to look into this. And this was significantly reduced. I think we saved, after our engagement, we saved the state about 50% of that money, if not more. So there's a whole lot that is going on that we must strategically look at so that we can help the state to ensure that proper processing, production, and packaging and all of that are done. Because again, when you talk about, you know, what the waste, you know, waste management, we talk about solid waste, for example, like other waste like nylons and packaging and all of that, you know, PET bottles and all. So we must intelligently look at, I mean, the manufacturing industry, which again, most of them are shipping out of Lagos to Ogun State already. I'm sure you know that, that most of the factories are moving to Ogun State. I mean, that's another interesting. But, you know, Lagos is consuming so much. And a lot of waste is being generated. So the factories, I mean, the producers of all these, you know, food products, Lagos must sit down with them, you know, and say, can we have other sustainable ways of packaging food so that it doesn't create the waste that is clogging our drainages and, you know, it's causing us, you know, a lot of hazard.
Okay, so you mentioned education is very key, and I also want to find out that, you know, how can traditional, you know, these food markets now adapt to sustainability trends?
It's a lot around advocacy. Lagos would do it, and Lagos must partner with a lot of institutions who are doing advocacy in that regard. Lagos must use the architect, I mean, the architecture and, you know, all of the friends.
But the state government have to do it alone?
Yes, have to lead the conversation.
Okay, they have to lead.
Lagos, it has to lead it.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be the one that will be on ground, but must support those advocates.
Okay.
Because when Lagos State comes, for example, with, let's say, Loma, for example, and the Loma police, as they call them, and all the environmental officers, when they come, I mean, the market, there will be resistance at the market level, and they will turn it political. You get, but if it is a private, I mean, a non-governmental, all the advocates that comes, they will listen to them because I mean, it's not government that is coming to them. It's not because of it. So they will sit down and they will listen to them. But Lagos must lead it and say, this is the data. And we must translate those data to the point that it becomes simple and easy for the yardlodgers and, you know, the market men and the babalodgers and all that to understand the impact on how they do things and why they must do it differently. But Lagos State as a government must lead the conversation and push that infrastructure of the people, the advocates, and the non-governmental organizations and all of that to go and be their forefront. But Lagos must lead the conversation.
Okay, so how does food prices now affect food sustainability?
It will definitely do. I mean, the cost of diesel, so I mean, we're not producing in Lagos, so we have to, like I said, okay, so I'm in the north as we speak.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not in the studio. I mean, if you ship anything from the state where I am currently, it would take about 2 or 3 days for any food produce you ship from here down to Lagos. I mean, if I'm the one who is doing that sort of, business, I'm going to charge the entire logistics, on what I bring. So I bring stuff from here and I get to my 12 markets. Even if a basket of tomatoes here is 1,000 naira, by the time it's going to get to my 12 market, trust me, it's going to be going upwards of about 10,000 or so. Because whether I like it or not, I'm going to consider my logistics. I'm going to consider losses I've made. Because the tomatoes, as it's leaving Kano here, is okay. So I've said where I am. Okay, as it's leaving where I am here, going all the way down to down to Lagos. Some part of those raw food will go to waste. So except we then have what the federal government is trying to do, train system that moves goods, quickly from one end of the country to the other without spending days, on the road. I mean, that will sort of take out the cost of the logistics, will take out, all those things, and then it will drop the prices, so that the person who is doing that, trade, who is mitigating that, trade between the north and the south, is still profitable, albeit may not necessarily be too much, but is able to still sell at a good price.
Okay,
so this is what affects.
You are talking about local transportation. When we started to experience the hike in food price sometime early last year, and we go to the market and the ewedu seller will tell you that, oh, it's the dollar. Okay, so the flip-flop, the flip-flop of the hike in dollars and foreign exchange, how does it affect our local produce?
Yeah, it's just basic. It's just basic economics, and whether you like it or not. If and I want to restock, and the naira is fluctuating and it's not stable, there's a tendency for me to want to sell that particular thing with the understanding that I'm going to have to recover 100%. What I'm selling, so that when I go back to market, I can still have enough money to buy the same thing. Howbeit, the price would have gone up. And so I need to be certain that whatever I'm selling it, I can still buy it again. And when I buy it again, I can still, continue to do my business. So people will leverage, again, on the fact of the naira is falling and rising and claim whatever it is that they can claim as to why they're selling at whatever price. So, I mean, whether you're buying locally or you're buying internationally, you must, look at the value of the naira and the rest assured that whatever you sell, when you go to the market, you can still buy it back and still be able to make profit. So it's simple economics. But is it right that what I'm buying is local, I'm buying in naira and I'm selling in naira, and then I'm now trying to leverage on the fluctuation of the naira to dollar? It's not right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not
this
right.
is where we find ourselves.
This is where we are.
Okay, I'm putting this question to you as I know you're a consultant, but if you had 10 million naira to invest in the food business, where would you put it exactly?
Yeah. I'll put it basically right now where I see where the real need is more of a storage,
which is where,
processing. Find a lot of need, storage and processing. Logistic wise, there's too much headache to logistics. I mean, insecurity on the road and all of that. We have that, but I would rather process, I would rather store. I mean, that's where I will put my attention on. Yeah.
Intentional. Okay. We've heard a lot about going green, when it comes to storage, especially for those who run the cold rooms and all of that. Is it more sustainable than diesel? What if the price of diesel comes down? Do you think people will run back and sell the solar?
I mean, in my analysis and some of the research we're trying to do in that regard, it is more sustainable to go green. And green is not just only solar, but then every other sort of infrastructure that surrounds green. So solar plus other renewable energy like waste to to energy, wind, hydro. There are some little hydro solutions that are not mega like our dams and all of that. Yeah, so I mean, those are more sustainable than running generator to between the national grid and generator. Whether you like it or not, even if diesel cost of diesel comes down, prices change. The initial cost of your infrastructure in going green is what may look heavy on you, but when you look at it in the long run, you will see that it's going to save you a lot of money. In the long run, because services are not as regular as when you buy a generator, you buy diesel, but you must service the generator. So most times we don't look at those costs. We just move on as it's just operational costs and all of that. But when you invest heavily in that renewable energy infrastructure, it may look heavy at the beginning, but over the years, you will see that it actually will save you more money than having generator, even if diesel price goes.
Okay. Just before we go, I want to find out what role should local universities and polytechnics play in supplying skills, the sector needs?
I mean, it's still the same thing around education. We have to. And this is why, I'm very keen about education as the foundation of solving the problem of Nigeria. If you've ever heard me talk about solving Nigeria's problem, you always hear me say that education is the foundation. If you solve education, we'll solve every other thing. So, of course, curriculum-wise, schools need to inject. It's okay. Some schools are already doing entrepreneurship.
Sure. Yep.
I remember there was a time we were doing ready set work, and we were training undergraduates who are in their final years across all the tertiary institutions in Lagos every weekend. And it yielded a lot of impact. I saw one of the guys who had some renewable energy solution from, I think, Yaba Tech or Lagos State Polytechnic or so. And I think Accenture, one of the top big four, gave them scholarship and gave them funding. So yes, at the university level, at the school level, we need to begin to train these, our young ones on how to begin to see, for example, how they can do sustainable farming, even within the little space they have, around them. Like I said, tower agriculture, hydroponics and all of that are simple technologies that we can help, to transfer that knowledge so that, people can grow little vegetables, and from there we'll then start to expand, and that culture will be built into us and, for proper food production. So we'll stop importing. We import too much food when we have so much land in this country.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Jeff Adebowale, Policy Development Strategist, and we've been talking about sustainable food business here in Lagos. This food business in Lagos is just not a necessity, but an opportunity for innovation and growth. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
We'll go on a short break. When we come back, the conversation continues.
The views expressed on this program do not represent that of the producer, management of Lagos Television, or the Lagos State Government. They remain the perspectives of those expressing them. Thank you for staying with Lagos Television.
I see a burial ground, we call it Teku, that was kidnapping people's school children. So when I woke up in the following morning, I was afraid of